Hey board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Crowd Surfing Lagniappe. That's right, I'm bringing you projects that won't break your bank, but throw in a little something extra. Here's what I'm checking out this week. Gem Hens is a 2 to 4 player family style game with a surprising amount of strategy. It's a brand new game from Social Sloth, an imprint of Grey Fox Games. Here's a disclaimer, I did volunteer for Grey Fox at Gen Con this year on their demo team, but I've never played Gem Hens until this week. It's out on Kickstarter right now. Note, these are just printouts of prototype materials. They're not even close to the final artwork. I'll show you some examples of the project after the gameplay. Here's how you play. Players will control these little chicken pawns, and they're going to move the chicken pawns around the farmyard, gathering up the gem grains. The gem grains are a bunch of different colors, and if they can place the gem grains onto their little Fabergé-style eggs, they can score points by completing these patterns. It doesn't hurt them if they don't complete the pattern. They just don't score any points. They can use the pink ones. They're wild. They can be placed in combination with the other colors to complete the feature. But they cost you 2 points every time you use them. If you don't use them and you put them on the side, they're worth +1 because they are wild. The game is played over 3 rounds, and during each round, 3 things are going to happen. First, the farmer is going to lay out some gem grains, and that's easy. They're going to roll 3 dice, and using the numbers on those dice, they'll actually put them on the columns in the matching numbers. Then we'll roll the other 3 dice and place them on the bottom. Wherever we see a connection, in other words, an intersection between them, we're going to put a random gem on those connections and fill them up real quick there. All right, we've got our gems all lined up. Now the chickens are ready to roll. The chickens each have 8 dice, and each player at the exact same time, of course I'm only one player here, but at the exact same time they'll roll all 8 of those dice, and using those dice, they're going to place them into these action squares. They can re-roll them as many times as they want, so long as they haven't locked them onto the action squares. Each of the action squares does something a little different. The 1s, 2, and 3s control the chicken pawns. You can burn those dice to move the chickens around. Any excess doesn't count, so you can strategically move to the end of the board by using up some of your movement. The 4s and 5s will let you add more gem grains to the farm. How do they do that? You'll just, let's say this one was a 4, you'll just pick any row or column that hasn't been used. Let's say we want to take this column. We'll put it here. It doesn't have to match the number. I'm just putting it there. And they can place a gem random out of the bag onto any slot that already has a dice on the left-hand side, including some of these little action dice. Same thing with the rows. If you did that, it just has to match up, or intersect, with one of these. So you could place it here, for instance. All right, the last spot is the 6, and the 6 is determining the pecking order. Depending on the amount of dice you have in there, let's say you have 2 6s here, and the green on this side only has 1 6. Then each player would roll their dice to determine the playing order. All right, blue rolled a 7, green rolled a 5. That means blue gets the first player token and gets to go first during their turn. They'll place their dice back into the appropriate spot, and those will be used as action dice. If they had re-rolled a 6, the 6 would become wild and they can use any of those spaces. Next up, starting in player turn order, determined by the first player token after that pecking order re-roll. Each player will take 1 turn, burning each one of the dice to move the chickens around or throw out more chickens by scratching the dirt and getting more, the gems, scratching the dirt and getting more gem grains. As they go around, if they land on a specific space so they got to come out of these little 4 ramp space areas. As they come out of this ramp space area, if they land on a specific space that has a gem, they got to land on it during their turn. They take the gem and move it onto the board. Now this is where the strategy comes in. Where do they place it? Do they put it on a 2 or a 3, a 4, or a 5? They got to think in terms of the number of different gems that are available in the random bag versus the points that they could score, knowing that after 3 rounds, if they don't complete that pattern, they won't score those points. All right? At the end of each turn, when all of the action dice are placed, we'll take all the dice off the board. We'll leave the gem grains that haven't been touched. They'll go out for the next round. The chickens will go back to roost inside the barn. The farmer will move down to the next one, which will decrease the amount of gem grains that will be placed out. We'll play those 3 rounds. Continue placing them on the Fabergé style eggs, and at the end of 3 turns, at the end of 3 rounds, we'll count up the completed patterns, subtract for any imperfections used, bonus points for any wilds that you didn't use, and the player with the most amount of points wins the game. Let's talk about the pledge levels. For $29 plus $5 shipping to the United States, you get everything you see here. You get some beautiful artwork on the forum board, 4 egg boards in the appropriate colors, each with those Fabergé style eggs with the patterns that you're going to try to complete, a little cheat sheet with the scoring tables for each player, the action boards, of course. You'll get an egg timer, some action dice, 8 in each color, and you'll also get plenty of gems in all the different colors to play, plus some exclusives. A little bit of Lagniappe, an embroidered bag, and 2 Power Cluck cards. It's kind of an advanced way to play the game with some extra powers. Hey, so that's Gem Hens out on Kickstarter right now from Social Sloth Games. $29 will get you the game, plus $5 shipping, and there's that Lagniappe, those embroidered bags, and the extra power cards. Gem Hens is out on Kickstarter for only a couple of more days, so make sure you check it out pretty quick. And until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.